news doesn't stop on Friday at 7:30 at night. PBS NewsHour Weekend is kind of a natural next step.
For 50 years, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting has brought public affairs, news, and series programming and all kinds of other content to public radio and television stations and viewers across the country. But the new political climate in President Donald Trump's administration suggests the notion of government continuing to provide funding to the CPB may be limited. The Wall Street Journal's Joe Flint reports that funding for the CPB is being targeted for budget cuts by lawmakers and an influential conservative think tank whose findings have helped shape the Trump administration's still forming budget. The White House is expected to circulate a budget outline next week, and CPB funding will be the topic of a congressional hearing on Wednesday. The CPB doles out government money to the nation's 1,500 public radio and television stations, more than 70% of which comes in the form of grants. The CPB received $445 million this fiscal year, a fraction of the approximately $4 trillion budget. Still, station operators are worried about a budget blueprint put forward by the conservative Heritage Foundation, which advocated eliminating federal funding for the CPB on the grounds that it has outlived its purpose, saying viewers and listeners now have access to ample resources of news and information. Budget experts overseeing the transition to the White House Office of Management and Budget had incorporated the think tank's proposal in their work on the coming budget. Conservative critics have long accused PBS and NPR of having a liberal bent. And Colorado Republican Congressman Doug Lamborn introduced legislation to defund the CPB in January. Quote, with the national debt nearing a staggering $20 trillion, the government cannot continue to subsidize private organizations that are more than capable of being fully privately funded, he says. The Heritage Foundation said in its report that PBS and NPR could make up lost funding from corporate sponsors, foundations, and members. The amount of money the CPB sends to individual stations varies by market size, but public television and radio executives from the nation's biggest cities to its smallest rural communities are in agreement that without it, the lights in many cases will go out. The CPB declined to comment. While the president makes a budget proposal each year, it is Congress that actually writes spending bills, and lawmakers could choose to ignore any cuts suggested by the White House.